There's not one guy, one person in the history of this program that's bigger than the program.
What's better than this? Guys being dudes.
Preview time. We are at offensive line and wide receivers. And I think we start with wide receivers just to go ahead and get started. There's less of them. So to get started, kind of this is the way I think it would be good to go about this. Give me a guy who you're going to be impressed with. He's going to be a starter. Then give me a guy who you think might surprise some people, because that room is loaded, like we've talked about. And a lot of guys are going to see the field, I think, kind of like the running back room, like we talked about last week. So kind of give me your A list and your B list guy. Matt, let's start with you. What do you got?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm going to start with a guy coming off injury from last year, Antrell Anthony, who is a transfer from Michigan coming in, who was the best wide receiver for OU last year until he got hurt. And this will definitely be a good comeback story for him coming into a loaded wide receiver room. But we saw glimpses and flashes of what this guy is able to do in a short amount of games. Give him a new offseason. Give him Jackson Arnold, who can throw it down the field and has the arm talent to hit him in stride. I mean, that's a deadly combination, along with some of these other guys that can open up the field. So it's not just the defense is focusing on one guy. They're going to have to defend all these guys all at the same time. So that's going to be a really good combo for OU. But I think Antrell Anthony, working off of his games last year, is really going to propel this offense really, I think, into another level. He's just so dynamic with his route running and being able to run all the skill tree or the route trees that's available to him. I mean, give this guy a lot of time on the field, a lot of routes. He's going to do a lot of good things for the Oklahoma Sooners. If I'm going to go with a B-lister, I will go with Jaden Gibson, who has got a lot of hype.
See, hold on. I can't do this because that's not what Jaden Gibson is.
What do you think Jaden Gibson is? He didn't see a lot of the field last year. Do you think he's an A-lister?
Yeah. Like, of course, he didn't see the field a ton last season, right? 14 catches. But on those 14 catches, he had 6 touchdowns. And we know Jaden Gibson is a dude. A lot
of drop passes last year. A lot of lost confidence in that guy. You know what I mean?
If you've lost confidence, do your thing, King.
Here's an argument for that, though. If Nick Anderson is performing super well,
yep,
and you only need one of those tall guys on the field, Jaden Gibson's not on the field. That's the argument I have against maybe Jaden Gibson.
It's a good point.
Is seen more if he's only playing well. Like, he has to earn that. If Nick seems to be a little bit of a step ahead at this point.
Yeah,
he's got to earn that for sure. I don't discount that. I guess I'm assuming he'll do the earning there,
right?
And
which you should. I agree with you. You should.
I'll look, Matt, please do your Jaden Gibson, but I just don't think we can count him among like a surprise if Jaden Gibson breaks out this season.
Sure. Well, I'll go with another guy who's a true freshman coming in, very similar to Jaden Gibson's size. That's going to be Ivan Karayan, 6'6", 219, from Odessa, Texas. I'm just going to keep on fighting through. Thank you, Mark. This guy, very similar build to Jaden Gibson, just a freak of an athlete. I mean, that size you cannot teach. So I expect one of these true freshmen to make a bigger impact. And I think Ivan can be that guy. I mean, goodness, how can you imagine guarding a guy who's 6'6", 220 plus? Can't imagine. So I think he might be a little bit under the radar for a very in-depth wide receiver room. Those are my two guys.
What you got, Pat?
Yeah, I'm going to agree with Antrell Anthony. I think a lot of people are high on Deion Burks for totally good reason, but Andrell's the guy who I think is going to continue to be number 1 or number 2 for this offense moving forward. So I'm going to agree with everything Matt said on Antrell Anthony. From a who might come out of the woodwork a little bit, I'm going to go with Brendan Thompson. I think we very much underutilized him last year. And when he was on the field, he played great. He's the same height, pretty much same weight as, no, he's a lot smaller than Deion Burks, but he's the same height as Deion Burks. I can see them both on the field really doing some things that defenses get confused about, running similar routes sometimes, and then sometimes running completely different routes. Like all of a sudden, Brennan Thompson is 40 yards down the field before they even knew it when he was just running routes similar to Deion was. Now, I really think, again, underutilized this last year. Hopefully, we find a way to utilize him because he has so much speed. He's almost unstoppable.
The games where Brennan Thompson broke out last season, you could really see that speed. It was next level. He's got speed you can't teach, and I'd love to see him utilized.
Yeah, that's all I got.
Cool. Mark, you go ahead, man.
Yeah, dude. All right, either before or after, I'll go ahead and go before. I don't think Andrel Anthony carves out a spot to start the season. I don't think that happens. He transferred in January of last year and had the entire spring with Dylan Gabriel. It made sense that he became Dylan's number one guy in that time. Jackson Arnold has been throwing to Nick Anderson and Jaden Gibson for 2 years now. And he had a spring with Deion Burks, who is a monster. So the reps are going to be more consistent with Deion than some of these other guys. I think that's going to be your starting three. Jalil Farouk might get in there. And those are sort of the guys we should start the conversation with. That's where I land. Maybe I'm too bearish on Andrel Anthony. He was a rock star last season. I'm willing to accept that if that's what comes to fruition. But I think he's another guy that's going to have to really show them on the practice field. He's got it all back. And all he's doing now is running routes. He's not practicing. He's not real life practicing. That's doing a shoot around. So we'll see. We'll see. I'm really excited to see if he can, because his speed was great and his route running was next level. But I got to see it before I believe it. My guy, if we're just going number one, Nick Anderson, man, it's so easy. I think he's a Biletnikoff Award candidate of guy. He should be on. I'm surprised he's not on some of the preseason, at least second team SEC projections. I think that is an omission for a player at 6'4", 213 that showed us last season. Not only is he big enough to make the catch, but then he's big enough, agile enough, strong enough, quick enough, fast enough to do something with the ball after the fact. And you don't often see dudes with his kind of size that can move as well as he does. You can clearly tell he's Rodney Anderson's brother because he's not afraid of contact. He's willing to take it, and he's willing to dish it out too. I'm super duper high on Nick Anderson. I think that's wide receiver one all season long. I think he is the guy. Maybe Deion Burks, but I think Nick Anderson's definitely the big dude we go to.
I think Nick Anderson's got to be your first option, in my opinion. He's too explosive with the ball. 21 yards a catch. 21 yards a catch as a freshman. 798 yards. 10 touchdowns. 10 touchdowns. Out of how many? 38 catches. Nearly 25% of his catches are for a touchdown. All he does is catch touchdowns.
38 for 21 a pop is a ton. It's so many catches.
It's a lot. I think Nick Anderson is the guy for you as a sophomore. And that video they showed today, he's a leader, man. He's a leader. In the middle of that huddle, you have BV standing right there, and you're screaming right in front of your head coach and Schmitty, and they're both shaking their head, acknowledging you, and all those guys in that huddle shaking their head, acknowledging you as well. He's a leader on this team, and I'm fired up for him to be the guy. I think he will be. If I had to rank the guys, I think it'd be Nick Anderson, Deion Burks. Then you go, I'll give you Andrel Anthony, and then Jalil Farouk, which is tough for Jalil coming into another year, because I think people are overlooking Jalil. I think Jalil can be a really good weapon. I think he kind of got lost last year, kind of lost in the shuffle a little bit. I think we might see a little bit of a Jalil Farouk resurgence. Go ahead, Mark.
I think he got lost last year because he just didn't perform. That's part of it. He was hurt here and there. They played him at running back here and there, which at the time I was into, but we saw it just didn't work. I think that top list goes Nick Anderson, Deion Burks, Jaden Gibson, and then you've got this Jaleel Farouk, Andrell Anthony thing brewing. That's how I see it going. But the room has only gotten more and more talented, and Jaleel Farouk didn't show us enough last season.
Yeah.
I think he starts out number 3 at best. I think we all could agree with that, because you got to look Nick Anderson and Deion Burks, right?
They have to be. I feel like they have to be. But I agree with Matt. Jaden Gibson, if he can sure up the drops, that's his biggest question mark, right? Like you can't drop the big passes. He made fantastic plays. Let's not forget that. He
runs good routes, gets open.
Yes, he absolutely does. This new offense, I'll be intrigued to see kind of his role that he's carved out in it. But also the guy is kind of under the radar. I want you guys to be on the lookout for. Brent Venables is not afraid to play freshman. Zion Ragens, look for that guy to somehow get the ball in his hand in a Gavin Freeman type of role without all of the bullshit.
Hopefully.
Yeah. Look for Zion Ragens. That guy has track star speed. And in the SEC, that's what you're going to need. You need size and speed, and you can't coach either of those. So to have a guy, he's not a big kid. Like, he's not 5'8". I saw him. He's maybe 160.
Maybe, dude. He's little.
Maybe. He's a little guy, man. But like, that can work out. There's a guy right now who's the number one player in the NFL who was a really undersized guy coming out of high school and carved a niche for himself at Oklahoma State. That's Tyreek Hill. And that dude's got very similar speed. I'm not saying he's faster than Tyreek Hill. Don't quote me on that. But that guy is very, very fast. And he's going to be a weapon on a quick screen game, on the RPO game, on a jet sweep game, any sort of gadget play. I think in the return game, I think he might get some chances as well. He's too fast to not have on the field. He's a unequalizer, not a real word, but I'm going to use it. He makes the scales kind of tip in your favor in terms of athletes on the field. And I think at some point he's going to get some burn. And whether that be early in the season when you're playing Temple, when you're playing Houston, when you're playing Tulane, look for Zion to get some burn. And look for him to get the ball in his hands and then say, okay, freshman, go show us what you got.
I remember when he committed and we called him Zion Ragens because we like to rage. And we were corrected in the comments. It's Ragans, I believe, not Ragens.
See, and that's what I was confused at. I didn't know if we called him Ragans and we're told Ragens or if we said Ragens and we're told Ragans.
We definitely started with Ragens.
It was probably me.
Look, here's the thing.
No, I don't think it was.
Here's the best problem we
you
have.
called him Reagan. Let's be real.
Yeah, there's the problem we have, and it's a good problem, is we haven't even mentioned like Jaquez Petaway yet,
right?
Or other guys. So we
Zion
really have
Kearney,
the solid
freshman.
Yeah,
Zion
exactly.
Kearney
we have
is a freshman.
these solid 5-6 wide receivers, and then you have Petaway who's coming into his sophomore year. He's going to want the ball too. We're going to have to give him the ball because he's talented enough to want the ball. So.
I think you can fit that Drake Stoops role. Someone's got. I mean, obviously Drake Stoops had, I think, the most receptions.
That's the thing.
Deion.
I think Deion's going to be more of
Deion
a
has said
field.
It's why he came in, was to play that role.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think Deion is a guy. I think Deion's a guy that you can put in the slot, but I think he'd be even better on the outside. Like, yeah, you want him to play that Drake Stoops role, but I think he's too good of an athlete to just pigeonhole him as a guy in the slot.
Drake led the team in receiving last season and and lined up outside plenty, where I think you can throw Nick Anderson in the slot if you need to. I think he's shown that he's capable of doing that. So you can move guys around. I think Deion Burks is going to probably lead the team in receiving, even if I think Nick Anderson is the best receiver on the team.
Okay.
To that point, I really hope we end up in a place where there's two guys typically always on the field, and then everyone else is moving around, because that's just tough for defenses with the amount of dynamics and talent we have across the board here. I hope that's how this season turns out for our wide receiver group.
I would like to not. I'm trying to find the way to, because we don't know what the offense is going to look like, right? I would love to see a quasi West Coast sort of looking system, like a quick passing game, and then you randomly hit some home runs, because getting these guys with the ball in space and just letting them go to work, I think is how you can separate yourself from other teams. Because if they're going to play off you and you can, just run some short routes and like let them get in open space, I think your athletes are better in that sense. I'd be intrigued to see what it's like, because now you look at guys like Jaden Gibson and Nick Anderson, they're the home run hitter type of guys. Like those are guys who easily can win jump balls, win all of that. So I'm curious what the offense is going to look like.
So just to dig in on that a little bit, Dylan Gabriel's passing yards per attempt last season was 10.4 yards, right? So he's pushing the ball downfield.
Yeah.
Mason Fine, Seth Luttrell's starting quarterback, his last season as the head coach. No, I think he was still the head coach, but this was like his guy at UNT.
Mm-hmm.
Yards per attempt his last season at North Texas, 7.5. The year before that, 8.1. So you're looking at 2 or 3 yards less. There's a real opportunity here to take advantage of that shorter to intermediate side of the field, part of the field, instead of deep ball.
Yeah.
Like
we saw with Levy.
Like we saw with Levy. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was Drake Stoops or a deep ball or a jet sweep or some bullshit.
Yeah.
Go Bulldogs this season.
Go Bulldogs. You guys got anything else on the wide receivers before we move on to the O-line?
Nothing.
Okay,
Fun fact, Nick Anderson is the leader of returning touchdowns at 10 for the SEC. So that's saying something.
Wow.
At 10.
I think I knew that.
Fast.
I think I knew
Emmett Jones, man. Just rock star.
Abundance of riches this team has on the wide receivers.
Yes, and it's a him thing that gets us there.
He is him.
Yeah.
He is him.
He is him. Great coaching staff. Gosh,
let us know down below in the comments what you think of the wide receiver room. Kind of who's your guys to be on the lookout for. Who's maybe a surprise guy? Maybe you think Jaquez Petaway is gonna make some noise out there. Okay.
3, 2, 1.
There's not one guy, one person in the history of this program that's bigger than the program.
What's better than this? Guys being dudes.